Jim and I, for the first time ever, actually went to a gaming expo.
Finally.
It was Too Many Games in Greater Oaks Expo Center.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'll let you kind of start it off, but what'd you think of it?
So basically it's the 4th or 5th year I think this convention's been running now. And when you first walk in there, it's like sensory overload. When you first go through the doors, like we already saw people lined up for one of the panels, and there were 3 panel rooms, and they had them going round the clock each day. And on the one side was a gigantic arcade with arcade machines, console set up, different tournaments going on. So I think the day we were there, they were having like a 2-day Tetris tournament, a Mario Kart 64 tournament, which we didn't stick around long enough for, a Tecmo Bowl tournament. So, and they also had like almost like gigantic monitor setup for Overwatch.
Yeah,
that was going on the whole time too, and there were like shitloads of people playing on that. There was like a professional announcer team in the one corner, so I'm sure this was being broadcasted somewhere. I don't really follow that shit, but. And then you had the main floor, which had all the YouTubers, all the vendors, just games everywhere. There really were too many games, weren't there?
I'd say there were an adequate amount of games.
Yeah,
now,
could be said.
To Jim's point, never being there, we didn't really know what to expect.
We did not plan accordingly.
Interesting. I think in my heart expected more cosplay than there was. There was a lot, don't get me wrong. But
there was a cosplay competition too.
And there was a cosplay, did you already say the wrestling match?
No, I did not.
Yeah, they had a wrestling ring, and they had a whole event, which actually happened right when Jim and I got there.
That was pretty cool.
So it was interesting. The final match was Mega Man versus Luigi. So we didn't stay too much for that, but it had a nice crowd around it, and it had some good pops. So it's nice they threw all that in there. I think it was $35 for the ticket, not including tax.
Yeah.
So for just the day pass, the really basic level, it wasn't terrible. And I think the best thing for us, and one of the number one reasons we want to go back, is we enjoyed just getting to see like who all's there. We will get into in a minute what we actually bought at the expo. But we did run into our buddy Dan from Console Wars. Obviously, that's a channel, if you don't know about, you should go follow immediately. You can see on the side of our channel link, they're here. But he's a great guy. We already did a power hour with him. We can't wait to do it again. And I think that's something, if we got to know a few other people, the networking of just meeting other YouTubers and just general gamers who are as nerdy as us, that's the real benefit of things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to name some of the people who were there, there's RGT85, I think that's his name. Norm the Gaming Historian, the Game Chasers, they were all kind of in one spot together. Pat the NES Punk and Ian were there. James Rolfe was there. When we were there, Mike Matei wasn't, so I think he was there for a bit Friday and maybe Sunday.
Yeah, he was there Sunday. Unfortunately, we missed him. He was nice enough to do an interview with us.
Like the first year of our site.
Yeah, so we were hoping to see him in person, but yeah, I think meeting people, it's funny.
Kid Icarus was like walking around.
Yeah, but it's funny because obviously James Rolfe, AVGN, he was the biggest draw. Like, of everyone there, he had his own special area designated for a line that you had to get into, where we got to meet a guy who, it was a good networking experience for us, I'll say that. But, yeah.
Yeah, he had like a half-hour wait of a line.
The nerd was exactly what you expect. Super nice, super humble, just, willing to just say, hey, how you doing, thanks, and it was just in a little bit of time we were there, the number of people coming up giving him games, like, hey, I just wanted to see this, add to your collection.
Yeah, he had this gigantic like printout of stuff, and he would be like flipping through every time. Like, people were generous as shit with that guy.
And then
and he would like did pictures like free of charge. He didn't care.
And then we stopped by Pat and Ian is really cool. We got to talk to him after the fact. We talked with him a little bit more on Twitter. Fingers crossed we may actually snag him for a future interview on Power Hour.
Hopefully.
But yeah, no, he's super cool, super chill dude. Would have loved to grab a beer with him, just didn't get the chance.
Yeah, we got there too early.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing we learned, like when we got there, it was actually funny because there was a car set up and there were people in tailgate chairs with a cooler. Yeah. They're like, someone's fucking tailgating this.
Yeah, we should.
And also, why didn't we think of this? We're the beer guys.
Yeah, we got there like Jim said, super strangely early.
Like noon.
Next time we go, we'll probably go like 2 or 3-ish.
Even later.
And
might get a hotel room.
And get nice and drunk before get a hotel room, get drunk after with some of the other people there.
That's what Dan did. He was already smashed by the time he got to the floor.
But yeah, no, it's a cool experience, and for anyone that is a fan of these YouTubers or a fan of just trying to get good deals on games, it's a good place to go. I'd say overall.
And there's a lot of like stuff. Sorry to cut you off, but like if you're looking for just everything, like I didn't really see that much, say, of like the computer consoles or like Atari ST or Commodore, shit like that. I wasn't really looking for it either, but weren't too many vendors with that. What?
There was one console there you could have gotten, but you didn't.
Actually, there were two, and one I have a lot of remorse about. So
let's just get into, so as far as buying stuff, one thing I will say before we show you what we did get, it was interesting. All the booths that were near the Video Game Nerd were more expensive. Not by like a huge margin.
But $5 to $10 more.
Yeah, so like Contra 3, that could have gone for as low as 40, and maybe you'll see that in a second. But near James, it was 45 to 50. So it was little touches like that I just kept recognizing. I'm like, it's smart, that's where the biggest foot traffic is. So if you went on the opposite side where James wasn't, that's probably where you'll find your biggest deals. And I also noticed a lot of bargaining with the vendors. Don't ever be a dick, and like if you see something for 20, be like, I'll give you 5. But if you say like, I'll give you 18 or something, most of the people seem to be very flexible and we're just willing to work out a deal because no one's trying to screw anyone there. So do your research, but be respectful when you offer a price.
Yeah, and if you have games in mind, I would recommend going on eBay and Amazon and seeing what the general going prices are, because you will, like Brian said, you're going to see different prices for the same game at different tables. So you're going to have to keep an eye out. And also, there was a lot of repo games being sold. So you have the obvious ones like Mega Man Wily Wars and Alien Soldier for like a North American console. So you have that, but then you also have the more expensive games that they're selling for $30, and you're going, oh, okay, so this must be a reproduction.
Yeah.
So you got to be a little careful there. Know what you're getting into, and really, it's a patience game because look at every single table. If you see a game, walk around the entire thing a couple times until you find it and find the best deal.
Yep. And
speaking of the consoles,
go ahead.
They make all the goddamn noise. So we know I talk about the Vectrex a lot. There were actually a few Vectrexes there. And at one point, there was one for what we thought was going to be $200. And Brian was like, hey, Jim, did you buy it?
Well, you can't talk that much shit about the Vector, or, talk about how great it is and then not buy it. So I guess you proved that Daddy was right, and that it's not that great of a console.
No, if it wasn't actually $265, and they are notorious for being, prone to breaking.
So bad, like I've said.
Not bad, just old.
I'm sorry, if you
not everyone takes care of things.
If you have something that breaks, what's the definite? You wouldn't say that's a good thing, would you?
Well, of course.
So Daddy's right.
You love the 360 too. That thing was prone to breaking.
Listen,
you had one that did die.
Just shine my shoes.
God damn it. And yeah, so there was a couple of them, and like the one we were talking about turned out to be like 265, and I was like, okay, screw that. And then there was like one that was like almost new in box for 600 some.
Yeah.
And the other console that I do kind of regret not going for is a Magnavox Odyssey 2 that was in the box for 40. And that's a little bit high for what it could go for in eBay, but I also didn't take into account the convenience of just being able to walk home with it right then instead of dealing with shipping or all that other crap.
And it could sit right on your shelf next to all your other systems.
Don't you goddamn dare, you son of a bitch. We would be reviewing Casey's Crazy Chase and all that shit. And Casey Munchkin and all of it.
All right, so I'll start with what I've actually bought. I didn't buy as much. I'm much more selective than some.
I bought 5 games.
You needed maybe one of them, and you'll play maybe 2.
I will play. One I can't play.
Listen, that right there, that statement was enough. But I'm more economical in terms of what I'm willing to buy and the reasons. Surprisingly enough, I did get actually a lot of art, and I know it probably doesn't make for the greatest footage, and if you are listening to this on iTunes, I apologize because you can't see it, but I got this painting or picture. It's the Splatterhouse. I'm trying to get the goddamn light out there. Awesome picture of Rick fucking up all those things. And the rest, I won't go one by one, but in this style of design, there was a bunch of different horror icons. So I got him, Jason, Michael Myers, and the killer clowns from outer space. So
yeah, what did Dan buy? He bought a
he bought from the same place I did, and it's
he bought Solid Snake, right?
Yes,
it was like one of those
Square Painter. I think that's their name, and we'll double check on that. but their art was great, and as you saw from my picture, but they had these giant, like I can't even say full canvas, but done in a pixelated manner. Is the best way I can describe it. We saw a Streets of Rage thing,
which I was really tempted to until they said $300.
Yeah, and we don't make that kind of money. So, but the only game I did buy is this, and it's one that I'm embarrassed enough that I had never actually beat. But The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past for Super NES. And while I was there, because James, the AVGN, was there, and he always talks about it, I had him sign it. I figured it was fitting because hearing him talk about it made me want to play it so much more, and it drove my decision to go out and buy it. I got it for $32. I don't really care if it was a great price or not. I think that's a reasonable price for it.
Yeah.
So the fact that I got signed by him, that's an added bonus. So yeah, those were my purchases. Very simple. I was looking a lot for horror games or horror toys or anything horror related.
Right, you had like 7 chances to buy a haunted house. You never did it.
They didn't have it in box for a reasonable price.
Yeah, they didn't have any of the... I was looking for goddamn River Raid for every goddamn vendor I looked through. No one had it for the Intellivision or the Atari 800. God damn it.
Yeah, so...
Kept trying. Or just in box. If I found it in box, that I already owned, I probably would have bought it.
Yeah. But no, I think when I go to these expos, I'm always going to tend to not... Because I am more willing to emulate first to decide if I like a game. Jim bought a game that I love to death, but I wish was a little bit cheaper. So why don't you go and show him what you got? Actually, I'm going to go grab something while you're doing that. So wait to get to the games that you're never going to play.
So do that one last.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. All right, so the games that I got. We'll start, of course, with the one that Brian was talking about, and Contra 3, Alien Wars. Regarded as one of the best Contra games out there, one I never owned. I did emulate it before, so I know it's fun. That bastard. But it came in to be about $40, which wasn't the worst price in the world. So it's actually pretty much fair, and it's one of the cheaper prices at the vendors around that were going for it. So I'm happy with it. Brian, I got one too.
Yeah, mine looks better. You probably can't see. Our buddy Dan, yeah, you're out of focus.
Yeah,
too
nope.
shiny. But he gave us these little buttons for Console Wars. So, wanted to throw it on.
Nice little extra piece of swag.
Yeah.
Next up, Turtles 2 on the NES, based on the arcade game. It's the game that we all wanted at first, instead of what we got.
Super NES version's better.
Well, yeah.
Just saying.
Just scrapping all my jeans, Brian. And I already own that one.
It's good. It's a good game.
Next up.
Yeah, what's next, Jim?
This one I can play. So
Okay.
shut your mouth. So, Galaga 90 on the TurboGrafx CD. Or, see, god damn it. See, you're making me jump ahead with all your bullshit.
See, he's getting nervous. He's got the tinglies in his tickles.
I always have the tingles in my tickles. But yeah, Galaga 90, a nice update, added a lot of stuff to the core Galaga gameplay. And I wasn't leaving without a TurboGrafx game basically, so this was one of the fairer priced ones for like a quality game. Like I didn't feel like paying $20 for Keith Courage or shit like that,
Yeah.
so I figured this is a solid buy. Next up, the Collector's Edition, Street Fighter 4. Yeah, I mainly bought it for the toy.
Yeah, this one, Jim already has the game. I have the game. Be honest, we're not going to play it, but I can get getting it for the toy for the collector's edition, and you got it for a reasonable price. So
Yeah,
it
was like 30-ish.
So that is something like I would probably go back and buy, like the chainsaw version of Resident Evil 4, like the full collector's edition or shit like that.
Yeah, I did see the Onimusha sword version of Onimusha 3, I think it is, maybe 2.
So that type of shit I get, even if you already have the game, makes sense, and if you can get for a deal and this one's in really good condition. So
yeah, it's in great shape, and it comes still with the CD soundtrack, the DVD, the Blu-ray actually, and the hint book and all the other crap.
Yeah.
So it's actually complete and in great shape.
So what's the next one, Jim?
Last but not least, certainly not least, some could call it the main event. It's the TurboGrafx CD port of the original Street Fighter,
Fighting Street.
known as Fighting Street. 2 quick little things about it. 1, game's goddamn terrible. And 2, I don't own a TurboGrafx CD. This is just one that I've always wanted for the collection. I just love Street Fighter that much that I'm just like, this seems like one I should have.
Now, Jim.
Go on.
What'd you pay for that?
It was like about like 40.
So that is $8 more than potentially the best Super NES game that I bought.
I already have it, though.
Why don't you stay with me on the
History,
timeline?
Bri. I bought history.
Why don't you stay with me on the timeline?
I bought goddamn history.
And let me see something. I don't see a signature by AVGN on yours.
Yeah, I screwed up here. I should have gone, like, this would have made sense for him to goddamn sign.
So, yeah, that game, funny enough, we've played that on the PlayStation version. And
I think that's, like, actually the arcade port, too.
Yeah, it's a true arcade port. We still have footage for whenever,
and this is close. Like, it isn't exactly as pretty.
Whenever we get around to doing the Street Fighter series, we still have that footage, but...
Maybe I'll get a Turbo Duo by then?
You won't.
Probably not.
Yeah. So, yeah.
A little pricey.
It's
there was a TurboGrafx CD system there, but...
Jim had to be talked down to restrain himself a little bit.
On certain things, there's a couple Turbo Taps, too, that I was like, oh, maybe I'll get this. And I was like, when the hell am I ever going to play the TurboGrafx with anyone else?
And the thing, I kept trying to push him on the Vectrex and the Odyssey 2.
I really should have done the Odyssey, goddammit.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. To add to the more random crap
the
that
random ass
site.
collection he has. So all in all, we also, we really did enjoy going to the arcade and again just play games, and it was kind of fun. Even though a lot of them were games we already played, sitting down and playing. I think next year when we go, we'll definitely try and enter in some tournaments. Jim was really interested in doing the Mario Kart tournament.
It was just getting late at that point.
Yeah, and it's one of those, you really have to pre-plan it, and you should look at the schedule. Like, we completely winged it, got tickets, didn't know what panels were when, so we'll be better prepared next year, and yeah, it was a fun time.
And actually, hopefully they kind of make the lines a little more noticeable between panels. Because we were maybe going to check out Blade Blur's thing, and we were in there, and we're like, where's the line? They're like, oh, it's over here. Then we get in line, they're like, oh, no, this is for panel 2. Yours is over there. Yeah. Like, oh, we're over here. Oh, go over here. Like, they're all mushed together.
The organization was a bit of a shit show, but whenever you have something that big, and I'm sure at most conventions, it's like herding cats. You're not going to do it very well, so.
Also, another thing I want to say.
Go ahead.
I want to say by like the 4, 5 o'clock.
Oh, God.
Holy crap, did it start to smell in that convention center. And I mean, that thing went to 10 o'clock, so it must have been ripe in there by the time they were shutting the doors.
Yes.
You would walk, I mean, early on you'd walk by some people and be like, there's a little funk here. But then by the halfway point...
I'm going to reserve my comments and just say I agree with you.
Try to be nice.
I'm trying to be nice here.
I mean, we can say that the clientele in a lot of cases were what you'd expect.
Yep.
And the bathrooms.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Hey, wait. For the fucking bathroom etiquette, there's a few rules guys know. And here's the deal. If there's urinals open and you're waiting, you go to the urinal if you have to go. We were in a line, no lie. It was taking 5 to 10 minutes. If you're a chick and you're listening to this, you might not think that sounds bad.
Somehow the girls never had a line.
Yeah, but either well, there wasn't that many girls there.
There
was, but either way,
there was a 70-30 spread.
Regardless, so there were stalls, urinals. A guy leaving was like, noticed the line was getting crazy. He's like, "Hey, there's urinals open." Literally, like 4 people in front of us just turned and like looked at us and just didn't do anything. So Jim and I were like, okay, like let's walk to the urinal. As I'm sitting there pissing, I hear someone say, "I was next in line technically," and I was like, and I asked Jim, I didn't even turn around. I'm just like, did he just complain that he was next in line? When he turned around and looked at us as in to say like, oh, I have to take a shit or I'm too scared to pee in public, so I'm going to use a stall, which I get, it's a thing. But
I kind of have that.
If you hear that a stall is open, you go. If you really have to go, you fucking go for it. So don't leave a gap. Otherwise, it's your own fault.
And it was almost like there was a force field in there because the second the second you get to the doorway, and they're open doorways. It's not like it's closed off or restricted or anything like that. But it was almost magical how the second you get to the doorway, you could be like this far from it, everything's fine. Go this much in, all of a sudden. Boom! Straight chase. Yeah. Straight poopy.
Yeah. So
also the guy who cosplayed as Ken during the wrestling blew up the goddamn toilet and didn't flush nearly enough.
Yep.
When I went in there after him.
Yep. So, good experience. We'll be back next year. We'll probably drink a lot more.
Recommended. We might even try to do, what's that other one that's coming up? Like September-ish?
We have a card somewhere.
Yeah, a video game con, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Or another video game con.
So yeah, if you've never been, check it out. It's a better one instead of trying to fly to E3 and shit like that.
Yeah, it's definitely got a more down-home feel, and, I mean, it's been a half hour away from us, and this is our first year getting there, so goddamn real life getting in the way.
Yeah.
Wives and kids.
So, yeah.
But yeah, go there, and probably no one recognized us. It actually was funny. Every time we'd get a picture with someone, no, because people recognized Ian,
Yeah.
or James. But when we got the picture with Dan, like, people were looking at us like, oh, who are these guys?
Yeah, they're like, who's who, and who, like, should I be taking a picture too? So, it's funny. I think...
Do we whore next year? Cards and swag?
We'll have our merchandise, we'll have our shit. We ain't gonna ever be at the level of, like, James or shit, but still, it's just cool to see, and, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good time. We'll be there next year,
Yeah,
God willing.